Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right, it's Wednesday morning, and this is time for the Ageless Blueprint podcast. I'm Dr. Taylor, the hormone doctor, and also the spiritual MD. And so this is kind of, the second half of the year. And this is what I'll tell you. I hadn't done any live podcasts for a while until last week because I had to deal with the fact that I was not following the blueprint. I was not following the blueprint of not overworking, stressing yourself out, trying to do. So I had to take a break, you guys. All right. So I took a break and I started to rethink about what was going on. And so, I talk about hormone confusion. I talk about cycles, balance, and transitions. I talk about hormones and how they run in cycles. But, there's other cycles. That's one blueprint. But there's all sorts of blueprints that we should be following. And when we don't follow that blueprint, we get into trouble. That's why have these symptoms. I didn't follow the blueprint of rest and relaxation and eating and all of those things. And it wore me out. And I had to take a break. I had to take some of my own medicine. But, a lot of times what happens is when you start to experience what other people experience, it gives you insight. So I'm not just talking about cortisol. I'm actually telling you that sometimes you don't take your own advice. So what we're going to talk about these other blueprints. We're always talking about hormones. But just like what I found out when we wrote the first book, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? And then we wrote the second book, The Stress Connection, is that we discovered that stress is really the problem. And I show that all the time on these cortisol curves and everything. And what I decided is like, okay, these people have done the things. They've, changed jobs. They've, maybe they changed relationships. Maybe they changed all kinds of things. But still, they say they don't feel like themselves anymore. So what we're going to talk about are these little bitty stress signals that we can send the body and not even know about it. It's about being aware of all of these signals. And that's what I've been researching. I've been researching on YouTube and all these things about how we give the body the wrong signal at the wrong time, so we get the wrong output. Because the only way your body knows what to do is by the signals that you give it. Is it daytime? Is it nighttime? Are we resting? Or you have to give it those signals. And when you give those signals out of rhythm or out of season, your body doesn't know what to do. So it decides to do something. And a lot of times it's not the output that you were expecting. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're just going to talk about, and what I'm hoping is that we have got to figure out some way to get rid of this consistent stress that we're under. And I'm not talking about what's on the news and all these things. I'm talking about the things you do every day. Last week we talked to this executive, a pharmaceutical executive, and she was telling me how she didn't have time to eat because she was on planes, she was on this, and then she would eat fast food. And all of those are signals that you're giving your body. So that's why just this one time I'm going to talk about the digestive signals that you give, which you are totally unaware of. But then we're going to also try and transition into how we can manipulate other systems and rhythms so that we can get back in rhythm and into our ageless blueprint. So anyway, let's go to the first slide. Hey, a rebel, I want to kind of have a conversation so that, because I feel like you're kind of in that situation, because I think when we first started, you told me that just life happens. You were kind of feeling like not quite yourself again. So you don't have to tell me what's going on, but you said just life. So kind of tell me what's going on, and then we'll go through this and we'll kind of try and connect it, because I think a lot of people are dealing with this, including me. So what's what's
Let's
the
see. All right. So, um, what is today? Today is Wednesday. On the 13th, which was 2 days ago, my absolute loving little baby, my 12-year-old pup, he's not a puppy, but he's still a puppy to me. He didn't make it. He started not being able to use his back paws. And we did everything, for the past, I think, 2 weeks that we could, help him. We got him a little wheelchair and stuff and everything. I had absolute hope that things were gonna get there. And unfortunately, it wasn't just, it wasn't just old age. Cancer had got to him. And it grew rapidly, and he just didn't make it. And that was one of the
so
hardest things to deal with, and and I started thinking, it's like, all right, my mom died in June last year. Another person died like 5 months, not even 5. Yeah, I think it was 5 months after her. And my aunt died 3 months after that. No, it was 5 months. I mean, it was June, then November, so that's 3 months, I think. And then my aunt died in February, and now here it is. We're in July, and another person has, left my life. It's like, do you get a break?
hey, Rebel, I don't know why I decided to do this. I mean, sometimes I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I just say, I'm going to go with what I feel. Let me tell you, my dog of 17 years that was totally attached to me, that I took care of really for the last 5, 6 years, same thing. He couldn't control his back paws. He couldn't control his back. We had to put him down 2, 3 weeks ago. So that's another reason why I'm like, I've been overworked. This thing happens, and I just had to take a break. So I understand you totally. That's what I'm trying to get across. I understand where you're at, because I've been all of those places. I've dealt with hormones with my wife in my practice. Everybody goes through this. This is what I'm saying. Those are these obvious stressors, but a lot of times when we have these obvious stressors, then we go into this mode where we're compounding the problem. And that's what we're going to talk about. But Rebel, I totally understand where you are. Okay. And everybody goes through this. We're talking about cycles, balance, and transitions, where we're transitioning, that our loved ones are starting to pass away. All the people who raised us, who taught us, they're starting to pass away in their 40s and 50s. Those are all of those stressors that I'm talking about, that we have to understand that everybody's going to have to deal with it if you live long enough. And how do we moderate it? How do we not make it worse? How do we understand it where we know that those stressors are going to cause us to maybe get sick easily, because it suppresses your immune system? It may throw off my hormones. It may throw off my digestive system, but you understand it. And so that's what we're talking about. So I'm going to try and get through these slides, but Rebel, let's talk this through while we're both trying to deal with some of the same things. So, hey, you have all of my sympathy. people who are not dog lovers or animal lovers don't understand it. And to tell you the truth, I was not an animal lover until my kids started bringing animals home, and this dog attached to me and I attached to it. And man, I never knew that I would feel like this about a dog, but I understand you. So let's go. Let me just go through the slides. Let me see if this. So what I've been talking about is the menstrual cycle, and we're talking about, and I always keep saying, hey, the menstrual cycle is downstream, is really the stress that's the problem. And so what we're talking about, and in anybody's case who's under stress, the menstrual cycle is dependent upon ovulation. It's about making an egg, but what throws that off? The cortisol rhythm. If you are under stress, your body does not ovulate. And when you don't ovulate, it doesn't make progesterone. So now that abnormal cortisol rhythm is causing anovulation, and you get all of these problems, and it ends up with estrogen dominance. All right. So we have got to try and fix this cortisol rhythm, and we try to try and support our adrenal glands so that it can get us through these issues. So, all right. And I again, being raised son of a Baptist preacher, you start to, you incorporate these things. And so part of the Ageless Blueprint, way back in Ecclesiastes, to everything there is a season. Okay, there's a time to be born and a time to die. I hope some of you have heard most of this. It's time to plant and it's time to pluck, kill and a time to heal. It's a time to break down and a time to build up. It's a time to weep and a time to laugh. It's time to mourn and it's a time to dance. Everything has a equal and opposite, and we have to balance these things out. So this is what we're talking about with cycles. Everything has a cycle. These are all cycles. They're ups and downs. That is how life is. But we have to be able to move through these ups and downs. We need to be aware that these things are going to happen. We need to be aware that this is what it's affecting. And because a lot of times we go through this and we just don't understand what is happening, and that ends up creating more stress. So what we want to do is we want to eat when the harvest is there. We want to eat when the things are in season. We want to do things in season, not out of season. When we do things out of season, we end up getting outcomes that we don't want. Okay. Does that make sense, Rebel?
Yes. It's difficult to do that all the time, though. We've had some questions coming in as we're going along, and it's difficult. I mean, especially when things are thrown at you that you don't know, and then you start feeling like, I did everything possible. Why did this still happen? You start making questions that you probably wouldn't question normally.
Right. Yeah. So, so let me tell you about that. So when you are like that, yeah, you start to what they call self-ruminate. It's this default mode network where whenever you are confronted like this, you end up running this same picture through your mind. Why did it happen to me? Da, 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 da. But if we understand that this is just a transition, this is that circle of life. You had your time to dance, you had your time to have family dinners, you had your time. So you had that. And now we've got to go into the other part of life. It is where things aren't added on to your life, things are starting to take away. So now what do you have to do? You have to add on more social connections. If your family is starting to pass away, that's why loneliness is so dangerous. We need to have other people. And when those other people or other connections, even when you're a dog, when they start to fade away, it's a loss. Okay. And so you feel like you had something and you lost it. And now you got to come back and you got to add something else. And in Buddhism and all this stuff, they talk about the law of impermanence. You have to understand that nothing lasts forever. Okay. So the dog, your good times, your bad times, we always say this too shall pass. Yes, the good times and the bad times will both pass. So let's look at this. So we've been talking about the hormone blueprint. So the hormone blueprint is cycles, balance, and transitions. You have a menstrual cycle. Okay, you go in and out of those cycles. You're going in your reproductive years. That's called puberty. You have to have balance in your reproductive cycle between estrogen and progesterone, not too much cortisol, so that you can ovulate. So you have to have balance of all those hormones. Okay, then you have to transition out of your reproductive age, and that's called perimenopause and menopause. And whenever you are in a transition, there is going to be turbulence. There is going to be stress. You are in a transition, so there will be stress. Okay, it will turn on the survival switch and not the rest and digest switch. So when you're under stress, what happens is your eating blueprint gets disrupted. Your sleep blueprint gets disrupted. You can't sleep. You're tired in the daytime. You're awake at the nighttime because your light blueprint got disrupted. Now you sit, you don't act, you don't go exercise because you're so depressed. So now your movement blueprint has gotten disrupted. So then you're under so much stress, you don't have time to recover. And what I see in these people who are high performers, they don't give themselves time to rest. I was talking to my guest last week, and she was saying, hey, she's on and off planes so quickly. You know, she has to eat quickly. She has to do all these things, and she just doesn't have time to recover from her stress. You have a relationship blueprint. You need to have close, purposeful, meaningful relationships. And if you don't, that relationship blueprint, if you are extracted from the tribe, if you're neglected, if you are not part of the in crowd, that is a stress, and that stress is equal to physical pain. That's why when you're stressed, your body aches. You start to have more pain than usual. All right, because any kind of separation gives you physical pain. And Rebel, you're probably feeling some physical pain because all of those relationships has fallen away, and you start to feel lonely. And loneliness is a stress, because that's when you start to beat up on yourself, when you're lonely and with your own thoughts. And that's what I'm talking about, that mindset blueprint. Because what happens is your frontal lobe of your brain, where you do executive thinking, where you can figure out what is real and what's not real, or what is false and what is not false, because your mind will tell you a lot of false things. So when you're under stress, that gets cut off, and all you do is react. You react without thinking. And that's what happens. And you even react to yourself without thinking, because you start to blame yourself for the things that are happening to you, but you really have no real control over what happens. You can only control how you respond to it. And I know you've heard that over and over again, but that is the case. And so,
Here's
like,
part of
like I
my
said,
problem.
yeah. Hmm.
I get, I don't, I'm stuck in anger. Okay. I haven't, I keep hearing all about this grief process. I don't know if there's an
Yeah,
order or something, but I didn't play the blame game because I know that I did everything I possibly could above and beyond with
yeah,
each one, but
yeah,
I'm mad and I can't get off of mad. I can't stop crying right now. My eyes are so puffy I can't even see my
wow,
eyelashes. I
yeah,
can barely even see and barely press buttons. You know, it's like
yeah,
I can't stop crying. I am
wow,
so mad that this
yeah,
happened. And
yeah.
there's is there a way out of anger?
Well, it's supposed to be this process. I'm trying to remember it. Is first is denial, then is anger, then is bargaining, and then is dabda, and then is depression, and then is acceptance. The last one is acceptance. So you are past denial. The denial was, I can make him live forever. That's the denial. If I do everything I can, he won't die. Okay. Same thing we do for people. If I do everything I can, if I put them on a respirator, whatever, people will die. Everything will die. Okay. Nothing is permanent. And I know that's hard for you to understand, but that's what you're angry because the denial didn't work. Right. Is
I
that
don't know. I mean,
right?
I knew that death is a thing. You know, death, taxes,
Hmm.
and change, they all gonna happen.
Right.
So I mean, I don't think I went through a denial stage. I didn't even know. You know, I didn't know that he gave no signs of other than he started wobbly, and then you hear from everybody different things. Oh well, you know, he's old because in dog years he's 84.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody
Yeah.
that died recently was over 70,
Yeah.
and in their 80s. So, but he's still, you know, he's still my baby. So it wouldn't have mattered how old he was.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's still my
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
But
Well, hey,
it,
go
I never
ahead.
left
I'm sorry.
denial. I mean, I never went. I don't. Denial wasn't a thing for me. So
Yeah.
that, but I got to anger.
Yeah.
I'm
So
mad.
yeah.
I'm mad
Yeah.
because this happened.
Yeah. And again, it takes a while to accept it. And I guess I've lived longer and I've had more people leave. And I've come to grips with it. But this is what I wanted to get into because I said we're going to talk about food and digestion. I just want to talk about one little blueprint. So what you have to understand is that, hey, look, Rebel's going through, I was going through a difficult time. So there's no doubt about it. We know what that stress is. Everybody knows about those big stressors. But this is what I want to talk about is the little stressors that you do unknowingly. And again, I've been doing research on this, and I'm telling you, there's about 50, 60, 70 things that we do as daily habits that can send the wrong signal to our body. And the only signal that the body wants to know is, are we safe or are we in danger? Is it time to rest and digest, or is it time to run and fight? And when you're angry, your body is ready to run and to fight or flight. Okay. So it turns off the rest and digest signals. So here's what happens when you don't sleep, when your nutrition is off, when your movement is off, when any of those blueprints are off, it is going to send the signal that this is out of season. Something is wrong. So it's going to send a stress signal. It's going to turn on the sympathetic nervous system. So it's going to take blood away from your internal organs and it's going to send it to your external organs. And so you feel this tension when you are under stress because all of the blood is there and is getting ready, revved up to go. And so then these signals travel along nerves down the spinal cord. So your nervous system decides, what do I turn on and what do I turn off? Okay. And if you are doing something out of season, you're not even aware of it. Okay. Then what will happen is it's going to turn on that signal. And when that signal turns on, what happens is your internal organs like digestion, like sleep, and all those things become disrupted. And Rebel, you probably are realizing that now, that a lot of the normal things you used to do, either you don't want to do them, you're not eating like you want to, or whatever, you have probably experienced that it seems like something all that not only am I angry, but now my body seems to be behaving differently. So is that something you're experiencing or not?
Yes, I normally only eat twice a day at weird times.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't I didn't even feel hungry, but people around me was like, "You have to eat something." I'm like, "Fine, I'll eat something."
Yeah.
But I everything is disrupted because I haven't really slept in the past 2 weeks because I was getting up because when anybody, a dog, a cat, a person, when you become differently abled, you get frustrated because you can't do the things. So since he couldn't move around, I was staying with him because he normally would sleep by my bed, but he couldn't get to my bed. And to keep him comfortable, I stayed with him in the living room. But sitting up in a chair is not the easiest thing.
Yeah.
And but I would do whatever I had to do. And I said that, that's what people do. You do what you have to do to help somebody get through things. At least I do. I mean, I can't vouch for
Mhm.
everybody, but I do what I have to do no matter what to help somebody, especially a family member, get through things. So I was sleeping up in the chair with him and helping him getting around, and constantly, parents do this when their children are sick, I'm sure. They constantly checking on them. So for the past 2 weeks, I had gotten very little sleep.
Yeah.
And now I can't sleep because I can't stop crying.
So I don't mean to make light of this, but this is what I hear all the time, and this is what I think is the problem with medicine. This is what I was talking about with some of the people I'm talking with, these executives. That's what they are experiencing, and I was talking about these big executives, but that's how women are. They sacrifice themselves for their families, their dog, or whatever. And that's why I think so many of these symptoms show up in women, because they are doing these types of things and they're sacrificing their eating and all of these, and it ends up being a problem. So sooner or later, I'm gonna get to this digestion. And see, I keep talking about this is not rare. Okay, is that everybody's going through this. These are these cortisol curves. And cortisol, if you haven't ever seen these, cortisol mobilizes glucose so you have energy during the day. So cortisol should be in this area right here, this green area. But when you are under chronic stress, your cortisol goes up here so you have energy, but you can't take multiple stressors like she was talking about. All of these people dying, a dog dying, you can't take it. And so cortisol, or your energy level, goes down here, and you don't have the energy to digest your food. You're just trying to stay alive. You're in survival mode. Okay. And so that's what we somehow we've got to be aware of this, and we've got to make sure that we are not contributing to the problem, because even after it's over, we don't want to keep sending our body the wrong signals out of season. And that's what I'm trying to pivot to say, hey, how can we expand this? Because we know what happens when the menstrual cycle gets out of season or out of rhythm. You start to have fibroids, PCOS, irregular cycles, all of those things. And we give it patches with birth control pills and antidepressants and all those. But then, like what I said, what we realized is that you gotta talk about this stress, because if I try to help Rebel with her hormones under all this stress and not understanding that is disrupting her whole system, I'm going to send her through more stress, because I'm going to throw her hormones more out of rhythm. Okay. So that's what I'm trying to get across, is that this is a measurable problem that we can see. We can hear it. We can measure it. And that's why I'm saying you cannot manage what you cannot measure. You can measure it, and now we can help her recover. Okay, if she was here, I would help her to recover with IV therapy, but you can also do it with other targeted supplements once you know what is going on. So now what I want to do is time for a break. Then I'm going to come back, and we're just going to go quickly how one simple change could keep you from compounding the problems that we see here, or the problems that Rebel is experiencing, or the problems that I was experiencing from overworking, having this loss of my dog. And so what we're going to talk about is how we can make simple changes that don't compound this problem. So let's go to break, and we'll come back.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the Ageless Blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Okay, I am back. I'm Dr. Taylor. It's Wednesday, so that means it's the Ageless Blueprint podcast. And wow, I didn't know what this episode was going to, develop into. But I said I wanted to have like a conversation because I had a conversation with a person, my guest last week. I was like, I'm gonna have a conversation with Rebel and just talk about how we're going to expand this. And then all of a sudden, Rebel is telling me about all of these stressors, and that's what I actually was trying to talk about. I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk about how these major stressors that everybody knows can also be fueled by these unknown or unrealized or these different signals that you are unaware of. So we want to try and eliminate some of those. All right, so let's going to start here. Let's just start by doing one thing, okay? And I'm going to show you how it can turn off a signal and help you to uh, just help you to function better. So the 20-minute mistake, how eating too fast ruins your digestion. And this is what I hear all the time, and this is a lot of times what I do in the office. If you eat too quickly, it throws your whole digestion system off. And that's just not the only thing, but just that one thing. All right. So let's look at this. It's not just what you eat, it's how fast you eat it. Same food, same calories, completely different physical reactions. Okay. So one, why do you need to take your time? The first thing is that just like Pavlov's dog, who rang the bell, they started to salivate. That's the same thing that we do. If you smell the food, if you're anticipating the food, if you're thinking about eating, your gut is ready for the food. All right. But if you're distracted, if you're worried about, your dog, you're distracted, your body never gets ready for the food. And that's why you don't feel like eating. Okay. Because you're distracted. All right. So that's why they say you got to eat. But one, you don't have any blood flow there. So you don't want to eat. And so also you're so distracted, your body can't get ready for the food. Does that sound familiar? That may be why you say, I just don't want to eat. Does that sound familiar to you, Rebel?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
I just don't think about eating. I mean, I work 12 to 15 hours a day and have to deal with everything going on. If I
Mhm.
did get to eat lunch, it's while I'm working. It's not like I can leave the studio and go eat lunch. I have to literally eat here while I'm working, and I don't pay attention. It's probably not the best of foods. I ain't gonna lie to you because it's got to be eaten here. And I probably eat fast because I don't have time to do things
I
like that.
know, I know. I understand the reasons why. I'm just telling you, I understand the reason why. I do the same things, and almost everybody I talk to who is high performers who like you, they say the exact same thing. I don't have time to eat, okay, because I'm stressed. Well, I'm telling you, that's stressing you out more, okay. And plus, you don't have the nutrition to keep your energy level up, and so that's why it's so hard for you to do things. So that's just one thing. Is that, and even if you're not under stress, if you're watching TV or if you're scrolling and you're not focused on the food, your body's not ready for it. So it's not ready to digest it. So the food that you're eating is not getting digested. And so therefore, you're not getting the nutrition from the food. So if you could just slow down for 20 minutes, and people feel like that's impossible, but that's the problem. Our new way of living has thrown us so out of balance is that it starts to just you have a domino effect. So let's go here. Other thing, what happens is why did your mom tell you to chew your food? Because the digestive enzymes and the acid in your stomach, they go by surface area. So when you break down the food, then you have a lot more enzymes in your stomach that can properly distribute the nutrients in the proper place. Okay? If you just swallow your food whole, it's very hard for your stomach to break it down because most of your digestion should be happening in your mouth. And there's certain things that have to be digested in your mouth that can't be digested in your stomach. So my mother used to say you had to have 40 chews, but you at least need to chew 25 times or more. But we just take 5 bites out of the Big Mac and we chug it down while we're stressed out in traffic trying to get back to work on time before your lunch hour, your lunch 30 minutes is over. So life makes this harder and harder. All right. So the other thing is that it takes 20 minutes for your brain to realize that you're full. So that may be, one of the why the GLP-1s work, because it keeps the food in the stomach long enough so that your brain can get the message that you're full. If you eat for 15 minutes chugging food down, you never get the full signal, so you keep eating. Okay? So it's not how much you eat, it's it's not willpower that keeps you from not eating too much. It's taking your time so your brain can actually understand, hey, you've eaten, your stomach is full, you need to stop. Okay? So that's what we're talking about, slowing down so that your brain can actually tell you that you're full. Right? Let's go to this. Because we don't eat properly, we don't get this steady flow of energy that the cortisol would give us. So we end up filling up that gap with carbohydrates. You start to eat carbohydrates because you need quick energy. It goes away and you get depressed and everything again. And then you have to eat some more. So, but what we have to do is we have to correct this cortisol curve. And we also have to keep you from reinitiating it by doing those same things, by being distracted while you eat, eating too fast, all of that. And I know it sounds simple. I know it's hard to do. I know it's hard to do when you're working 12 hours a day. But sometimes you just need to be aware of something. You need to understand it and you need to understand why you're doing it. And a lot of times when you understand why, it becomes easier to implement. You're like, what am I doing to myself? Let me just, whatever it is, let me just take 20 minutes. I am not going to do anything for 20 minutes and I'm going to eat. I'm going to slow down eating, because what happens is if you eat too quickly and you don't break down the food properly, your small intestines have to finish the job. So now they have to slow down the peristalsis. They have to finish the job. That's why you bloat. Your small intestines has to expand so it can finish the digestion process that should have happened in the stomach. So that's why you bloat and you feel uncomfortable, an hour or two after you eat, because you did not give your body time to digest it, your stomach time to digest it. So now some of that undigested food sits in your colon. It sits there. It does several things. It ferments. It's what gives you the bad gas. It gives you the constipation. And then some of the toxins that are in the stool gets reabsorbed. And one thing that gets reabsorbed is estrogen. So a lot of women are constipated. And when I say constipated, if you're not having 2 bowel movements a day, you're constipated. And what happens is it can cause a hormone imbalance because the estrogen that should have been eliminated in the stool is still sitting there. And so now it gets reabsorbed. So you can throw your hormones out of balance by not digesting your food properly. And that's what we're talking about, how just one change can affect a whole lot of different systems. Okay. Now, and one thing is that, you know, uh, initially we had to catch the food, we had to cook the food, we had to cure the food. So, and it wasn't all tenderized, so we had to chew it. If you're eating things from the garden, you had to chew the greenery. But modern food, fast food, is engineered that you can eat 1,000 calories in 5 minutes, and there's absolutely no nutrition in it, and it's all empty calories. That's why fast food is no nutrition in it, because you don't even have time to get the nutrition out. But the calories, the energy in that food is still there. And so the calories end up getting converted into fat. So that's why fast food makes you fat. Even if you could eat the fast food over 20 minutes, it would help then, instead of chugging it down. And so I want you to understand also is that fast food restaurants are very sympathetic. Okay. The people are screaming, it's loud, it's a lot of lights, it's all this, because they know that you're in that mood. Okay. And that's what you want, quick food. When you go to a nice restaurant at night, what happens? Okay. They have this very soothing music. The lights are dim. And here's another thing that slows you down. When you eat by yourself, you eat a lot faster. If you eat with another person and you converse and you're talking and you stretch the meal out, that helps with digestion. Okay. We used to not have the TV in front of the dinner table. You sat with the family, you talked about your day, and you would sit there for an hour or two. That's why people back in the 50s and 60s weren't as overweight as we are now dealing with this fast food. So, that's so if you can, so let's look at this. Here, just if you could do this, if you could take time to smell the food, look at the food, pay attention to the food, understand that, hey, I'm about to eat, it will just prep your stomach. Okay. Chew. This is simple stuff, but I just want to show you that what it can, the long term effect of not doing this is what we're dealing with now. So if we could change that long term effect, we could affect a lot of things. So this is simple, and we're going to talk about other things as we move on. But fullness, slow down, give yourself at least 20 minutes to eat. You want to eat nutritious food so you don't have this roller coaster. And then you also don't want to throw trash can. You don't want to have a full trash can that never gets emptied. So those are the things that I'm saying, is that if we can understand this, we cannot add on. And I know, Rebel, it's hard. You may know this. I know it's hard to do right now, but I also talk about, hey, look, here's what you want to do. You want to prepare for future stress. So after you recover from this, you want to say, okay, I've gotten through this. All right. Or while you're recovering from this, okay, let me try and understand this. At least if I'm going to eat, on the run, I'm going to at least try to stretch it out over 10 or 15 or 20 minutes so that my body will know when I'm full. So anyway, Rebel, I think I'm gonna have to stop here. I want to see if there's other questions. If you have questions, but this is the mechanical fix. Hey, give your hormones time to arrive. Make the meal at least last at least 25 minutes. So if you have a 30-minute lunch break, you should you should use all of that time eating and not traveling in the car and all of these things. Break the hand to mouth trance, and this is what I've started to do: is put the fork down every time you take a bite. Chew it, give yourself time to chew all of those. And your brain needs to see, smell the food to turn the oven on. Eat without distractions. So those are three things, small things that you could do. So maybe you're not dealing with the stress that Rebel's dealing with, but you're trying to see how you can feel more like yourself, how you can help your body help you. Then these are some of the things we can start doing. So I want to even so I want to even uh, have like some courses. I'm actually building those now. Is one is why don't I feel like myself anymore? And another course is the signal school, is to show you different signals that you can give your body at the right time in the right season that can that can help us maintain a normal cortisol curve, that we don't have these unaware stressors that we're dealing with. So I wanted to show you that just one thing, if you just change the time, the same food, different timing, you get a different output. So Rebel, do you have some questions? I want to make sure we have time for questions because
Yes,
again,
we've been getting questions throughout the show.
okay, yeah, your
Um,
story is just like the epitome of what people are going through. So yeah, go ahead. What questions do we have?
okay, first question. Does life ever give you a break?
Okay,
No.
so yeah, so again, is not, and I know this is, people are, oh, this is that old therapy stuff. Life is going to happen. The only thing we have is to change our response to it. Okay. And so that's why I'm saying these things are going to happen. So what do I have control of? I do have control over, and I know you're saying, but I don't have control over because I have all of this stress. But you have to make yourself have control over some of these things that you have control over. And what's the thing is like the serenity prayer. I need to know what I can change and give me the wisdom to know the difference. Accept the things I cannot change the things that I can, and give me the wisdom to know the difference. So you can't change a lot of life, but you can only change how you respond to it. And taking time to eat is one response. So and you have and here's the other thing, and I know this is all therapy stuff. Every down has a up. Okay? Every down has a up. How long you stay down can partially be because how you respond to it. That can keep you down longer. So we have to figure out, how do we get back up, because everything is a cycle. It's a time to be born, it's a time to die. It's a time everything comes back. Okay? So this too shall pass. That's the only thing that I can say to help you, is this too shall pass. But you also have to understand the good times will pass just like the bad times. So don't get too comfortable either way. All right. So more questions.
Next question. Where do you get time to grieve? When do you get to grieve? Did you care about your pet? Of course. He was my baby.
Yeah.
That's, and where do you get time to grieve?
You don't.
I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah, you don't. You don't. And most companies, they're not going to give you time off when your parents die. They may give you a day or two off to go to the funeral, but you don't have real time to grieve. You don't have time to stop working usually, so yeah, you have to make the time. And again, you have to try and make sure you're not compounding the problem, and try to do some of these things, like you said, like you're doing, and you don't know, and it's making the problem worse. So if nothing else, just try to clear your mind for 20 minutes to eat. And that's what meditation is about, is to try to break that cycle of thinking and clear your mind just for 20, 30 minutes. And it gives your body a chance to recover. Okay. Because when you're not sleeping and not eating, there's just no time for you to recover. So you have to try and do whatever you can to assist the body in recovering from these stressors. And the reason why I like the testing is to show you that, hey, it's not a default in you, or willpower loss. It's just that this is what your rhythm, your energy rhythm is. And so we've got to try and correct it. As always, repair the damage caused by the stress. Okay. Another questions. We got 3-4 minutes. Let's do 3-4 more questions.
Okay. Should people take time out to reset?
If you can, yes, for sure. Now, also, this is what I'll tell you. We see this over and over again. So there's targeted supplements. That's what you see on Taylor MD formulations. We have something called Adrenocare Glandular, and we've seen it. And I can show you examples where you can have people like that have a low cortisol curve like that. You give them the Adrenocare that has all these adaptogens in it that help you better adapt to stress, like ginseng, rhodiola cordyceps. And that is something you can do to assist your body. Okay. There's also a supplement called phosphatidylserine. Phosphatidylserine helps to lower nighttime cortisol so you can sleep, because if cortisol goes up at night, you'll wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And so you can use targeted supplements when you understand this, and you can correct those cortisol curves and to help you to recover. So that's what we talk about, or that's why we came up with Taylor MD formulations, is how can we combine ingredients and get a clinical result. And yeah, so that's how you can help. Okay, so let's do another question.
Next question. Can't you just get another pet? Oh, you must not be a pet person. You don't understand that process. You don't just jump from one to another.
Yeah.
It will be some time before I can even think about Not because I don't love other dogs. It's just,
Hmm. Yeah, and you got to
did you
think about
ever
it. It's like,
experience
okay,
anything?
it's just like, okay, your husband died. Just get another husband. No, all right. Are your child dad? What you crying? Just have another child. They don't understand it. They say, hey, look, anytime you feed a child or a pet for more than like a week is yours. So it's a part of the family. And so that's what happened. You feed a dog or a cat or whatever, all of a sudden it's yours. And so that's what happens. So hey, look, we're talking about dogs, but hey, people got stresses of losing jobs, losing relationships, losing all of those things. So that's what we're talking about. But anyway, hey, I hope you enjoyed this. Next week, I think I'm sure we're going to have our guest from last time, Jackie Roberts, is going to come back, and she has kind of looked at a lot of my material, and she's got like a new attitude of how she's going to handle this with her clients and how we're creating coaches. And if you're interested in some of this and you're interested in helping someone else, I actually am trying to have more women talking about this to other women, talking about hormones and menstrual cycles and stress, because I found that things travel faster women to woman than social media or podcast or anything. So anyway, let's end it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Come see us next week. Uh, Register for our or sign up for our YouTube channel. Follow me on all my links, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast. Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and taylormdformulations.com for more information.